This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, welcome everyone to this new year of our Lord 2023. Um, Happy New Year to everyone, and best wishes and all of that.
Very
So,
nice. Happy New Year. Right back at you.
thank you, thanks, Aaron. Um, right, so I was going through this Python thing before the PTO. Well, let's say before the PTO. Um, and I found another thing in the spec that we might want to go over. And I know Dylan found one with measurements. I'm not sure they warrant a lot of discussion, but they need to be corrected. So I made a note in the meeting notes. Dylan found the measurement value. It's missing the list type for the measurement objects. And I found that the DOT info is a single object right now, but the text still says collection, collection of whatever. So we might need to go through that. We can probably do that offline on Slack.
Yeah,
Yes.
my
So
recollection, at least for the measurement, was that we intentionally left off the list, but now I need to go back and double check that.
I mean, we should be able to specify a list of valid values for like the value matching option.
Yeah, I
but
wonder
is
if
it
It was for
like
validator.
it was for validator reference values or for the value of the measurement? I don't remember, Dylan.
I say it was for validator reference values because I made that not a list and then was like, wait, and went back and changed it.
Yeah, I mean
But
that makes sense because we have the operator set in, so it has to take a list.
so, and then just to confirm, DUT info is supposed to be a single item, right?
Yeah, that was the last discussion.
Okay, cool. I've made some design decisions around that, so gonna be upset.
so. Back to the measurement though, and keep me honest here. Wasn't it that the validator allowed a list of possible values so that you could do the n, but the measurement itself was still singular atomic, right? Okay, and the list we left off was on the validator then.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'm in agreement.
Series for like a collection of.
Okay, I'm trying to find the document here.
Yeah,
Oh
under
no,
the validator in the documentation, it does say array there.
I'm checking that.
So at least at the version I'm looking at, it says attributes value and then type JSON string number Boolean. But I could be on an outdated version.
So I'm looking at the measurement,
Okay.
and it does have string number booleans, so we're in agreement there. I'm looking at the PDF version too, by the way. They should be the same, but
My my CPU is acting up again. So I am looking at the Google Doc. I don't think we have any changes, any delta between the sources right now. But at least on the Google Doc, if I look at validator, the value is just string number and boolean, and it should be a list as well of any
yep.
of those.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. I agree. The diagram is correct, but the table is missing the list.
Yeah, well, regardless, we should make all of these changes on the Markdown PR that I have open, and we can forget about the other stuff.
Yep, agreed. I did review the CL for your markdown version over the weekend.
Okay. I didn't get any emails, but I'll have a look. Thanks for that.
No worries, comments should be there, but I'm thinking that you can respond to it, but we should still go ahead and merge it, and then that way we can start making changes to it. I'd rather just get it there.
Okay. Yeah, I've changed my mind during the December PTO, so I'll address some stuff and I'll merge it, and then we can do another PR to add the graphics and whatever else we need, just to make it public as quickly as possible, because that might be an issue.
Cool. I didn't notice it before either, and I don't know that we want to change it. It's probably not worth it. But when I was going through and I was reading it, having not looked at it for a long time, where we added in all the links in the markdown, like we, reference back to like, test run every time we use it and things like that, it
Hmm.
makes it a little weird to read. It's just a visual appearance thing, right? Because there's links literally everywhere. I don't know if we want to keep it that way or not. Like it doesn't hurt, but I don't know that it helps a lot either. It's up to you guys.
Well, I made all of that, so I'm gonna comment on that. I am willing to change my mind. I just thought it would be useful for like readers when you get to, you look at a random page, you would be able to click on definitions for all of those items and they take you to the right place, rather than you having to navigate whatever. Like that was one of the benefits why we have the markdown.
Yeah, fine. Just the only concern I had was that we might have trouble keeping up with that everywhere we do it, but it's not worth going in and changing. Observation.
I mean, it's probably gonna diverge. Like nothing's perfect, right? So it might be that at some times someone writes a new thing, but I mean, it's not gonna be randomly someone who writes a new thing, but we might miss some of these in a PR review. But it's a living spec, so we can fix it later. Right. Okay. So I guess we can also do an easy item that I had on the list. Vincent was asking the previous meeting, um, la, last to previous to last one, to explain the new org and team changes on GitHub and how the Google Drive is being used right now, and how we plan on using all of these things. Is so I'm gonna ask first, is that still a thing you wanna do, Vincent, or is it more clear to you by now what's going on, or do you think it might be useful for other people as well if we go through that on one of these recorded sessions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take that offline if everybody else is clear. So I don't want to necessarily spend time here if everybody's on the same page. But I know I would benefit, so I would probably sync up with you, Adrian, later, because it is not clear to me what
I mean,
they're grateful for.
it's it's a light enough topic, so I was thinking that if we have time right now, we can do it on the call.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. In fact, not to leave the topic of the JSON spec too quickly, since you were on it, also in the spirit of sort of clarification and knowing what to look at. Um, I mean, I'm looking at the pull request that Dan was commenting on, and I realize I did not actually bookmark that specific pull request. But that's not the main point I was trying to make is Dan mentioned the PDF. I've always gone to either the OCP formatted document that was converted with version 2.0 October 22nd, revision A, that's the one that I've kind of bookmarked. But I've mostly gone to our draft, right? The Google Doc draft. Now we've got the markdown version. So just for anybody that we want to share the spec with, what should we point them at? Should we go to the PDF, to the Google Doc, to the
So
OCP formatted one?
ideally. I have a quick answer for this. So ideally, we get done with the markdown version as quickly as possible, and that is the reference and link that we give to people directly on GitHub. The PDF is like an artifact for OCP, right?
Also,
And
the PDF in the version you're looking at, Vincent, should be the same as well.
And the PDF is in
yeah,
our Google Drive, right?
It is. It's literally just export as PDF from the Google Doc.
Okay.
so I have a comment on that because there is a PDF on the Google Drive, the OCP Google Drive. So when I say Google Drive from now on, I mean the new one. And I just moved it from root to public because I wanted to share the spec with someone. But if I look at that PDF, it still has at the end like some protobuf code, and in the beginning it just says author me and Dan, and nobody else is mentioned. So it's kind of weird. Like that PDF needs to be adjusted if we keep it as a public artifact. Anyway, so to answer your question, the markdown should be the reference. We can probably do the PDF, regenerate the PDF from the markdown afterwards, and keep that, for whoever wants to look at the PDF or print it. I don't know, put it on a Kindle or something.
Okay, so the JSON spec directory in OCP Diag Core is the pointer, is the handle, right? Well, I mean, for now it's the pull request, but once you land that, it will be that directory, right? Or a PDF generated from it.
Yes, the markdown readme out of that folder, out of the output folder, with a caveat. Because I remember we were talking to, I don't remember his name, but it was the CTO for OCP, was it
Mhm.
Dan? And he
Bijan,
said
yeah.
he had ideas for organizing the repos. So we might still change some stuff, but for the time being, that's a good place.
Okay, perfect. That's very helpful. So yeah, now just to demystify a bit the OCP Google Drive versus the drive that Paul had started off, I think. Where do we point new and existing documents? So do we obsolete the the early one that was set up in 2020?
Yeah, so the Google Drive that we had prior is gonna go away. That one was created by Paul, so it's under the Meta org and all of that. So that's going away, and we have the OCP one. And then you had an item to migrate some of the stuff from
Yeah.
from the
So
old one.
yeah, I actually
Uh,
can't migrate it. We have a problem at the moment for Googlers. I know it's ironic since it's Google Drive, but we have a global setting where we are not able to create content on that drive or move content to the drive. We can edit content once it's there. So
hmm.
I either need to continue fighting with our, I don't know, IT people, whoever they are, or I can create a thing called a partner domain for us where we can edit and do things with our partner domain, but it's a total hassle because you need to have like a second browser and log in with a different account and all this other stuff. So I'm trying to not do that if I can. So for right now, I can't move anything there, but it's not really hindering anything. We can't edit once it's there.
So the thing that I hit was that I I couldn't move documents that I'm not an owner for. And a couple of those documents are under your ownership then. So you're the only one that can actually move them. Um, what I did with the meeting notes one, I cloned it, so it's like a copy of the old one. But if someone has the old link, it's gonna go to the old link. I mean, we can still do this and like post an indirection thing at the top of the document, like go to the new one, if it's easier than fixing the creation problem. But you're the only one who can actually move the docs, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, let me do this. Let me give you ownership of the docs. I'll just go
Yep.
through, like, I don't think there's a whole lot that I've put on that drive, but I'll go through and update anything that's got my name on it and make you an owner as well so that we can move it over.
Okay. I wasn't sure that's an option. I thought the owners was immutable.
I don't think so. It's not internally for sure, but sometimes there's differences between public Google Drive and internal Google Drive. So let me find that out.
Okay. Okay, so that's a solution. If you can make me an owner, I can start moving stuff directly to the new drive.
Sounds good.
Um,
Real quick, we bounced around a bit between the spec and the markdown and the actual repo. One thing, Dylan, I know you wanted to talk about a little bit was discussing what is the change management process we want to do when we do want to make a change here. Now that, like, you're implementing, Adrian and Dylan's implementing, like, there may be a chance that we need to make some little tweaks, right?
Yeah, we've also had people internally who are like suggesting minor but reasonable changes, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if we can touch it right now, but it'd be good if we just had like a formal process for them to go through that wasn't sort of like gated by me and Dan.
so is this changes on the spec?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have a quick proposal. I think we lost Dan. I'm not seeing him move anymore. Um, well, I'm gonna say the proposal and I'm gonna repeat it when Dan comes back. So we have this whole discussions thing on GitHub, and the point with that was to have these kinds of discussions. So I would go about this by making a new discussion thread with a feature request tag, and it's like I want to get this in the spec, and then we continue the discussion on that thread.
Okay, yeah. Is there a way to like vote or something on there? Or maybe voting's not the right way to do it. Maybe we need consensus, but and I think maybe having like a template, although maybe that's something we do internally, although we probably want it externally too, having like a template for what a spec change request looks like might be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this done for other projects, like software projects, but I don't know how to handle this for a spec specifically because it's I don't know what the fields would be for the template. Like, have
Yeah,
you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that? Right?
right. Well, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? I guess are the fields what, why, but so maybe not
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Like if I look at the Rust proposals, for example, I keep taking that as a reference. It's like why, what, and examples. So how it looks now, how it look afterwards, and peps in Python are kind of similar, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why, what, and then like full JSON examples seems like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, we can actually start a discussion on this, like on GitHub discussions, like defining the template. Uh, we have two places, by the way. We have a discussions tab on the team, and we have a discussions tab on the repo. I don't know which one this goes into. I guess,
Yes. Wherever the spec document is. So maybe the repo then,
yeah, I guess on the repo, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
right? So it's like you would have the proposal, and then the next step. Well, maybe then there's the next thing is like the next step is submit a pull request with changes, and
Oh
then the
yeah,
spec
yeah,
creator,
yeah.
and well, and the proto, which is with everything, but also the there. So
No, yeah, that makes sense, and you can reference the PR directly, and it knows you're on the same repo. Right.
At
So
the cost of sounding a bit pedantic, but can we make sure that we either explicitly deprecate the initial Google Drive, or at least that everybody's clear on what we're putting in the OCP Google Drive? Because I'm looking at it now, I think I found it. It's the test and validation enablement folder. or drive, but I really don't see a lot of people in it.
So
Like
if
I
it's
don't see Daniel, I don't see Giovanni. I only see Dylan, Dan, Adrian, myself, Michael, and Kevin from OCP.
let's handle that offline. Vincent, you can give me the link on work chat and I'll look at it. To answer your question, after we move everything to the new OCP directory drive, whatever, I'll just ask Paul to delete the old drive completely. So you won't have any problems with it.
Okay, our meeting notes, I mean, the links are in our meeting notes, and I think these meeting notes are actually in the old drive.
No, they aren't. I moved the meeting notes specifically. Well moved. I cloned it, and the old,
I
the
see.
original has an indirection to go to the clone. But if you're on the clone, you won't see that indirection.
Okay, perfect. I actually realized that now. Yeah. Okay, so the meeting notes are now in the new drive.
Okay. So while we're waiting for Dan to come back, um, to further answer your question about the Google Drive, the OCP one, well, the Google Drive. Um, we can put anything there, anything that we use internally. There's like a folder that's called public, and I specifically made permissions for the public folder to be public. So anything in the public is outside visible. Anything else is just visible for us.
Okay.
So I don't know, we can move the presentations for the OCP Summit, videos, demos, whatever, we can put them all there. And probably, organize it a bit. But the point I'm making is nothing else is public aside for that folder. So uh, if we change stuff, we're not breaking any links or anything because we wouldn't give away links that aren't public. Okay, Dan's back.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I had a power outage. Yeah, I'm not sure how much you heard, but I was kind of going on and discussing the way we might be able to manage change management. And what we had done before was we had a really lightweight process where we would just write up a little RFP, like a request for proposal. It was super small, like one or two little paragraphs, like why do you want the change? What's it for? And then we would have a document for why we did it, and then we can just quickly approve or not approve. Here, I think it'll be easy in the beginning, and then it'll be harder and harder as we go, especially once we have multiple implementations. That's when, it'll come back and be like, oh, wow, this is tough.
I had a quick discussion with Dylan while you were away, Dan. And I was proposing that we use the discussions tab on the GitHub. And Dylan was saying that we need to get a template for spec changes proposal, like why and what and examples. We can discuss that in one of those discussions. And it kind of matches like how Rust proposes stuff and Python proposes new stuff. So we'll have the discussion there, and we can reference a PR and then close the discussion and all of that. And the PR will be, a valid link.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I think the part I'm hearing from Dan is from a process perspective. Using GitHub discussion sounds like a good medium, but do we want to throw in a template for an RFC RFP
Yeah,
and
yeah,
say, yeah, okay.
yeah. That's exactly what we just said. Yeah.
I missed the template piece, so okay, that's clear. And so who's going to put together that mini? I know it's very clear. It's like three sections. Why do you want to
So
change? But we want to have that reference template in there.
No. You're right. So what I just said is let's start the discussion on the discussions tab and deal with the template inside that discussion, like
Oh,
figure out what the template
got it.
is,
The
and
template
then
itself would
reuse
be
that.
the first discussion. I like that. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, and
it's meta discussion.
we probably need to propose a core team as well for folks that will vote. Like I would say voluntary 1 year position, right? To kind of review the changes and whatnot coming in, which I don't think there'll be a lot, but it would be good to have that. And it should probably be an odd number of people.
Well, Dylan, Dan.
Well, I was going to propose one person from each company. So I was going to nominate Dylan, Adrian, and Arun, if that's okay.
I'm fine with that. Like I'm on the line anyway for this.
Yeah, fine by me.
What am I getting
Awesome.
nominated for? Is it an award? No, I'm just
You're
kidding.
you're
You got to
you're
do a
being you're
presentation.
being the neutral party, Aaron.
Okay, fantastic. I like Switzerland.
Sounds good. Yeah, and then Dylan, I think, and I apologize if you guys had already discussed this. I think you actually already had a change you needed to make, right? Is that true? Or
We have a proposed change. It's pretty minor, but and we have like an internal write up on it. But yeah, this is what catalyzed it. Basically, we wanted to add source location to the error message and to I think that there was one other message. I can look at the proposal. We could also just encapsulate that within, the message string, but I think the thought was that having, file path and line number as like actual separate pieces would be easier to process. Um, so yeah, I think it's a minor change. I think we don't need to do it, but I think that it would be like a slight improvement. So that would be a good one to kind of demo our process with.
Do
yeah,
do we
let's
wanna
take the tenders.
do we wanna discuss this item right now, or do we discuss it in a discussion on GitHub?
I would say let's do it on GitHub in a discussion for now, and then we'll take the document we have, and then we can validate it all works, and then in tomorrow, or I'm sorry, not tomorrow, rather, but next week's meeting, we can say, hey, it worked or it didn't work. We didn't get anybody to respond or something, right?
Oh yeah, you just triggered something in my head, Dan. We didn't get anyone to respond. So for the proposals and stuff, we need to have a deadline. Like if nobody does anything for 2 months, then it's automatically approved or declined. I don't know, one of those.
I think we
Probably
are
declined.
gonna go for the decline.
Yeah, I think it has to be, or otherwise we'd have a spec that doesn't match whatever the implementation is, right?
No, I mean, yeah, that's obvious.
Well,
Default deny.
I mean, it feels very binary for something very human. I mean, if it's not being driven and it's not, if nobody cares, I mean, declining is itself also a form of rejection that implies that the idea was not sound. But if it's only to decline it to revive it later because somebody was on PTO for that amount of time or whatever happened, that's also not great. So clearly there's a human component that needs to be driven in the RFC, and if nobody's driving it, then I think we've got a bigger problem of like the
Like
team.
this, we could say that if after like 3 or 4 meetings, nothing is going forward, it means that probably we discussed during the meeting and that needs to be dropped.
Yeah, maybe we archive it.
And
Yeah.
putting on months that you are right, it could have PTOs and stuff like that in the middle. We could work with the meetings because the meetings are also recorded and there are meeting notes. And so if that has not been treated at all, I think we should give it a priority. So let's say someone is proposing something for 4 meetings and not be treated at all, we should give the priority and at least discuss what is
Mhm.
the proposal. and then it's supposed we will get out with like approve or rejected or stuff like that.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like that.
I'm
I think
expecting.
kind of, sorry, yeah,
Go ahead.
associating a
Sorry.
status to the RFC and it going inactive after a certain time, for example, could reflect the stuff that we start the meetings discussing. We discuss the active ones that are higher priority, and if something just stays stale for 6 weeks, then we basically mark it inactive.
Yeah, that's a good point, and we probably need like a section in these weekly meetings to assign to that kind of discussion, because we're gonna have like the other streams that we still need to discuss, like certifications, lab, whatever else we still need to work on. So,
I'm happy
now
to
that
take
we have
sorry, I was going
no,
to say I'm happy to take an action item too to write up the process that we discussed, and then just that way we'll have it in marked down somewhere on the site, right?
yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. Or maybe even as a permalink in one of the discussions. I haven't played with the GitHub discussions, but let me see what their forums can do. I'll kick the tires on that a little bit.
So
Also, if
I
it's
was asking,
possible, sorry,
go.
Ivan, if it's possible, the next meeting or the meet after the meeting after, if we could recap the status of the different streams, because I had to admit that I miss most of them,
Yeah,
so I
no,
don't know where
that
we
that
are at the moment.
that's fair, and we should do that as soon as possible because of PTOs and stuff. And this is kind of part of the planning that I was talking about at the beginning. So, like, to have a plan, we need to know where we are right now. Right. So we have like 20 more minutes. We can actually do this right now if there's
Yeah,
nothing
well,
else
that's
on
what I
the
was going
list.
to propose. I wanted to also give you guys a quick update. I know, Vincent, you were talking to somebody from Microsoft. I can't recall who it was. We've had some of their folks on the GPU side reach out, and they're going to be joining the call next week. I think Paul is going to add them to the meeting notes, and they're interested in GPU diagnostics in particular. And then the other question I had, Adrian, for you is we've been working with some folks from Meta. I need to go back and look at my email on NVMe diagnostics, and I know that they referenced you by name, but I can't recall who they are. Do you know what I'm talking about, or never heard of it?
I have not heard of it, but
Oh,
I'm glad to see that I'm becoming famous.
you
Yeah,
are.
no,
If I
no,
need,
I don't know
You'll
if
be
you're
making
referring to, were you referring to Adrian or to the folks on the SSD, on the storage side, right? Because Paul, I think, had to drop on the meeting, but he has a meeting with those folks. I believe the meeting is tomorrow. Let me check. Um, yes. So the meeting is actually not at a friendly time for you, Adrian, even though you've kind of defied all laws of of reasonable times. I could send it your way just as an optional. Right now
yeah,
we've
no,
got,
go ahead.
yeah, I'll send it to a few of you guys on the Meta side, um, just so that you have an option to call in. It's not at a friendly time for Europe.
No, it's
Uh,
fine. Like I went to sleep at 7 a.m., so it's fine.
you're okay. I won't go further into how many hours you sleep and stuff, but then just sorry, this was a bit of a parenthesis on the Meta side. Was there something specific, yeah, you wanted to follow up on that we should bring up, make sure we touch on? Because you're right in observing that some of those initiatives have been a little parallel, and our intent is to reconcile. And we'll make sure to align tomorrow in that meeting, or at least start aligning. But on your question for Microsoft, the person I pulled in was Sunil John, who had joined our meeting once, and he was part of the sort of hardware validation team there. But it's true that we did not see them again after that, and I admit that I did not follow up with Sunil at the time.
Okay, yeah, the gentleman we were talking to, and unfortunately several people joined the meeting, but only one was on the invite. It was Vineet Ereka, if that rings a bell to anyone.
No.
Okay. So let me find out. They did know Adrian, I know that. So you are famous, even if you don't know them. It's good for people to know you and you not know them.
Oh wait, you're talking about the person on the Meta side, not Microsoft.
Yeah, on the Meta side, I
Oh yeah,
apologize.
yeah. Vineet is the person we're having the meeting with tomorrow.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
then at least we know we're on the same page. We're talking to the same people, and then hopefully they're lining up to use Adrian's implementation.
Yes. So Vineet
So yeah,
and
let us
Russ.
know how that goes next week. I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah, will do. Vineet and Russ Stanford. All right.
Okay, and then to Giovanni's question, which I think is an excellent one, like where are we at? What are we planning? What is the roadmap, right? And for me, I was still looking to get, our version 2.0, the specification core library up in the repo this month. I know, Dylan, you were saying maybe we would have ours up next week. And then 3 diagnostics, like we said, we would do the PCIe crawler, we would do memtester, and then SAT was, I think, what we had originally proposed. And now it sounds like potentially there may be some interest in another team within Google publishing some FIO diagnostics. And then we have another discussion going on with a large GPU provider that may be interested in taking their manufacturing diagnostics and potentially using our format or us wrapping it for them. They're a little hesitant on the open source aspect, so we're working through them with that.
Actually,
That sounds very interesting.
yes,
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
going to say
honestly,
the
if we
same
could get
thing.
all that, then this became very real, right?
Well, the piece about the tension around open source is probably something on anything very material coming from a supplier, a vendor, a manufacturer is probably going to be a recurring theme. I mean, we see it firsthand whenever we touch the point of IP, right? So anything that's not going to be contributed by one of our respective companies where we benefit by putting things in the open is going to probably be bound to some challenges. So unless it's already an open standard. So it's definitely worth a good chunk of discussion around how do we handle these proprietary-ish contributions, since obviously it deviates from the intent of OCP, right?
Yeah, I think perhaps, right? Like what I would say is, we can have open or OCP compliant devices. Like, for instance, if you were using the Redfish profile from the OCP, you know that your device is compliant from a management perspective, even though your source code may not necessarily need to be open source, right?
Mhm.
We might be able to do something equivalent here, but maybe with one pause that I have. Uh, so much of what we do right now with GPUs that we work with, that we don't create the ASICs, right? Most of them go through some proprietary driver anyway, whether it be, like libcuda or the AMD library that's escaping me right now, right? Vulkan, I believe. But we could probably do something similar to that there, where the actual meat of the diagnostics is closed through a driver and whatnot, and then the actual API or implementation, the thing that wraps around that, is open. That may be a path forward, right? Because increasingly, I think that will be the case. The thing that gives me pause is the kind of diags that I'm hoping to get out of this aren't user land diags anyway, right? They're things that are lower down and closer to the metal, the things that only vendors can provide. That's what I think is really interesting, right? So maybe that will just be the way that a lot of these things go if they're not on top of the OS.
I think that if there are no strictly legal position or philosophical position, what is benefit to the community is to have the binary. I mean, yes, it's good if they could provide also contribution, but for sure, if someone is using the diags. The good part is to have the binary. So I think that we should have sorry, contribution that are not open source, and because that is what is driving the project in the community. Then yes, if they are open source, it's better. I think that if there is a framework, probably it should be open source because the framework is more, it has an impact that is more broader than the single diag. But if it's a single diag, I think that it's not really a problem to have a closed source for that.
So I have a quick add to this, and then maybe we can get back to the status because this is diverging a bit. I'm gonna say the following, and this is actually gonna go on a record. But I think it might actually be a good idea to use this opportunity that we have in building this whole ecosystem of diagnostics to maybe push for more open source of stuff, longer term, regardless of the fact that we might end up on medium term with like opaque blobs that we need to use in the diags. But the more open the diag is, I would argue that it's better and more contributable by other people.
Pandora's box, Adrian. You've not had these discussions with John back in the day. It's we can take that one offline. Of course, the intent is right on. You're spot on the intent. The execution on this is what can actually completely take from 1 week to 3 years. Right? It can be a major stopper.
No. I know. Like that's why I'm saying that with the caveat of we have a process to get there. But it's in an ideal utopia we would have that.
Yeah, I would say let's not rat hole in it for now. We know we're going to run into situations where we have an unreleased CPU or something like that that we can't open source until some disclosure date, right? Like it is what it is. I would say to Adrian's point, let's kind of get back to the status.
Yeah. So I was gonna talk a bit about that Python thing and the PCI crawler diag, which is gonna be on top of the Python code. And I'm still working with legal on our side to get both the Python lib and the PCI crawler, combined and working in the open source. There's going to be a meeting sometime this week or next week to deal with that. And the second bit that I need to talk to legal with is about the whole team. Like this is kind of a too much detail, but the point is I want to get a legal approval for the whole OCP test and validation team rather than per individual repo thing. So I'm working on that. So the Python code, I posted a PR with some of that code. I've tried to gather like influence from a range of places, like stuff that we had internally, some stuff from Giovanni, stuff from the Melton framework, and I've tried to make a more covering API. I would appreciate if people have a look at that Python PR thing. And eventually, as we discussed, that is gonna go into its own repo later on under the team organization. What the PR doesn't have right now is the whole set of runtime checks and validations and stuff like that. So it's just a thing that takes in your Python objects and outputs JSON compliant to the spec, right? So that runtime validations thing for your actual client code is still under discussion for me because I don't know if it needs to be there or it doesn't need to be there. It depends on what level this API is supposed to sit at. Like it's just a serializer kind of thing, or it does more intelligent stuff. So that's why I'm talking about the PR. We should have this discussion there.
Yeah,
I
so
did.
for the PR that you're referring to, is it up on GitHub now or one that you're getting ready to put
Yeah,
up there?
it's been up from December at some point. Yeah.
Okay, and then is that the serializer level API or more like the end user level API?
It's the end user API. So there's also you're gonna see a folder with examples as an end user would use the API, right? And it outputs the JSON through a write channel and stuff. Like you'll see the architecture in the code. But the whole of it right now is serialization uh, as functionality, but it is open enough so you can add runtime checks for validations and check that your DOT actually exists or you want to do stuff with random objects.
I did take a look and added some minor comments on it, Adrian.
Okay, thanks. I haven't checked it recently. I will.
This is the add Python lib for output production.
Probably yes. I can.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
number
that's
562.
It is 562. Yeah.
cool. Awesome. Yeah, no, I will take a look at it. I haven't yet, but I was actually going to propose just this. If we could get like a header file, well, I know it's Python, but like the header file of your functions, right? That would be great to look at.
There's an examples script and folder. So I am trying to add. So I've added tests and examples for most of the aspects that I've written there, and by the end I want to have some measure of examples. So as a user, you can just copy paste an example if you want to do that, and I want to have tests to cover all of the API, like 100% coverage.
Okay, so it sounds like then to kind of sum up in our last 10 minutes as we set, our immediate roadmap for the near term future. On the administrative side, we're going to work on porting all the stuff over from the old Google Drive that Paul had set up, deprecate that. Document our process for PR, try to do, or I'm sorry, not PR, an RFP. Document how that flows, try to do one example, and in the meantime, on the technical side, we'll be working on getting Dylan's core library up there, and then your implementation, Adrian. Is that a good synopsis of where we want to be going into February, I suppose?
Yeah, I'll add two more items, and thanks, Vincent, for writing that up. We need to add the people to the OCP team, like in the team, because right now it's just me and you, Dan. And
Okay.
I still need to talk to Kevin. Was it? I'm not good with names. Kevin Kiefer. To figure out the emails.
Okay, that would be great. And then maybe one other little errata, like I thought we had the meeting invite fixed, but it looks like the meeting invite is still not fixed. And the only reason I even make a big deal out of it is if we start inviting new folks, like it's gonna be super confusing.
No, that's fair. I'm gonna talk to Paul and see if we can move this. I did get personally in my calendar, I see a different meeting than what used to be there, and I
Okay.
had to click accept on it. So maybe Paul did actually do that, but didn't add all of the people in it.
Well, I think if you're referring to, because we had two 30-minute meetings before, I now have a 1 hour
Yeah,
single meeting, right? But it's just
yeah.
the invite change. So if Paul was able to do all that, then I think we just need to edit that. We're good.
Okay, so that happened, but the invite is still wrong. Okay, I'll ping Paul about that.
Fantastic.
Is there a pull request for your work, Dylan, that's out there? Is there a number?
So I'm actually writing, so it'll go through the Capybara export, so which is currently broken. So I'm finishing it internally, and then I will fix the export, and then we will see everything, and then definitely happy to go through that and receive any comments. It'll be easier for me to then do the edits internally.
Okay.
How are we going to do that though, Dylan? Like, I'm looking right now at the billion capybara service bot things, right? Like, we won't actually be able to comment or merge that though, will we?
Comment or merge
I guess
the
my question is, when do the capybara changes get merged into main?
yeah, they like after the CL is submitted internally, then it just those PRs never get merged. They should actually get deleted. Um, they are just there to run the CI, and then it just goes and like I think it just pushes directly to main.
Is
As
it
like a
is
force
it gonna
push or
help?
something?
I think so.
Is it gonna help with this whole process and cleaning up those temporary PRs and all of that when we
Yeah,
move to
that's on my list.
separate
There's
repos for stuff? Yeah.
right. Well, the separate repos will be nice as just like a reset on that, but something is wrong with it. Like the CI isn't even working because it's referencing it's referencing the PRs incorrectly, and it's clearly not deleting them. So like that is next on my list is going and figuring out what the hell Capybara is doing and fixing it.
Okay. Yeah, we can deal with that. Okay. So
Yeah,
I
actually,
think we've
before moving on
yeah.
from that question, since we're on this topic, and I've been meaning to ask, so Dylan, when we look, yeah, indeed, with the Capybara syncs, I think it probably accounts for most of the 574 PRs. Um, so are you saying that generally, for anybody that's interested in tracking what's changing, is it best to try to even track or not? Or best to actually ping you and say, what's worth looking? Is that the better route?
Yeah. So the easiest way to track might just be looking at what commits have been actually merged to the main branch. Like those should still all be good. The way that the Capybara works is that it creates a PR, it runs CI on that, and then like has that so that people can go and look at it, and then it abandons it. And I think doesn't delete it, which is the issue that we're seeing here.
So so
So
before Yeah, sorry for interrupting you, Dylan, but I'm thinking before we go more into this, isn't it better if we just continue this discussion after we set up the final repo structure for everything? Because I think some changes will be relevant there. And we can then like set up a process for reviewing Capybara stuff, and we can set up a process for reviewing spec changes and all of that.
yeah, so would we be like renaming the repo that Capybara is currently exporting to, or would we just be creating a new repo and kind of starting with a clean slate?
So I have a document from Dan somewhere. Dan, do you remember your proposal while I'm looking for the document?
I do. It's probably on the old drive still, but I can share that with you guys.
Okay, I
Otherwise,
found it. So we would have OCP diag code which keeps the spec, and core Python is the pure Python, memtester, sat, and PCI crawler. This is what I see in the proposal. The last three are like diags. So now my question is the Meltan thing still part of core in your proposal then?
it was, but I mean, if we have to change it, if there's a technical reason where it's easier for Dylan if we break it out, I'm okay with that too.
No, that's fine.
Okay, but in that case, I would ask that the capybara thing be fixed at some point because it's like pushing a lot of empty PRs and commits
Yeah.
with no messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of considered it like good and bad right now. One, it's good that it looks like there's a lot of activity. It's
Yeah,
bad
but
because,
I can't find my PR between all of those 500.
and
Yeah.
that's why it's bad. When you asked me to go in and review your PR, I was like, I was
Where?
like,
Yeah.
let me do it by author.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in
Okay.
all fairness, GitHub offers you an ability to filter on author, so it's not that bad. But I don't think you can exclude an author. In this case, you would want to exclude Capybara and see everything that's not Capybara.
But even if you're looking for the author, you need to realize that Adrian is the crocodile, which I did not know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, that is insider's information. Yeah,
so it's actually a dragon, but close enough.
My bad.
that's the Florida connection for Dan. Everything's an alligator.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I think we have a plan and we've discussed a bunch of things. I feel like this was quite productive for a first meeting, actually. I was expecting more stalling a bit, and we're on time anyway. So I'm gonna close this if there's nothing else to talk about. And thanks everyone, and see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Happy New
guys,
Year.
bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Or
Bye.
thanks.